in Massachusetts that makes it illegal to idle your car for more than 5 minutes. And a lot of people don't know about the law, so we are working hard to educate people to let them know about it.
Hello, I'm Eve Potts, retired teacher from Medfield. We're here this afternoon, or I'm not sure you'll be hearing it as this afternoon. I'm also a member of the Green Sanctuary Committee here in Medfield from the First Parish Unitarian Church. We're here today to tell you about the committee that I'm in, or that I belong to, the Green Sanctuary Committee. I have two guests here today. Thea Iberall, Iberall, I want to make sure I'm correct on that, and Fritz Fleischmann. Maybe you could start off, Thea, and explain to our group what we're doing with our committee.
Sure. It's the Green Sanctuary Committee of the UU Church, and we care about the environment, and maybe Fritz could talk a little about that.
Yeah, so as you both know, we started the Green Sanctuary Committee 3 years ago in 2012 because there was a substantial number of people in our church who were concerned about what's happening in the environment and about the environmental degradation of the planet, and particularly about climate change.
You know, I'm going to interrupt both of you for a minute. I'm sorry, I didn't give your bio at the beginning. I think I was a little nervous. So, Thea, let me again introduce you, go back a bit on that. Thea is the author of a newly highly acclaimed climate fiction novel, The Swallow and the Nightingale. She was recently inducted into the International Educators Hall of Fame. At First Parish, UU, in Medfield, she is the chairman of the Green Sanctuary Committee. And Fritz is a professor at Babson College. He teaches a first-year undergraduate course on nature and the environment with an emphasis on climate change. He also started the Green Sanctuary Committee at First Parish. So again, I apologize for starting off a little wrong on that. So I'll let you get back to yours, Fritz.
Well, since I'm also a professor of literature, so let me put in a plug for this wonderful novel of The Swallow and the Nightingale, which I have read and which I hope finds a large audience.
Thank you.
So back to where we were. The Unitarian Universalist Association has a nationwide program called the Green Sanctuary Program, which encourages member congregations to review their environmental practices, how their buildings are managed and how their members live. We decided to participate in that program and apply. And in order to do so, we had to submit a list of projects, and one of them is the project we're going to talk about. But back to why this is so important to us, we have 7 principles in our faith community, and the 7th principle is that we pledge to behave with respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part.
Thank you. And Thea, do you want to explain your part on this too, please?
Well, as Fritz was talking about, we care about the environment, and there is a law in Massachusetts that makes it illegal to idle your car for more than 5 minutes. And a lot of people don't know about the law, so we are working hard to educate people to let them know about it. Now, there's some exceptions to it, but only if like your car is being repaired and they have to fix the car because that's a safety issue, or if the engine is being used to run something on it, like if a bus needs the flashing lights going for the engine, then it's okay for the bus to idle. Otherwise, the bus also has to shut off the engine if it's going to be on longer than 5 minutes.
I have to tell you, in Medfield, the Conley Bus Company does all the school buses, and they used to idle. In fact, I used to walk by all the time, and I would see them waiting, 10 minutes early with their buses idling. So I called up Conley, and the woman answered, and she said, no, we do not do that anymore, and we've been informed that we cannot do that. And she said, if you ever see any of our drivers idling, at an unnecessary time, be sure and report it. So I was very glad to hear that.
That's good, because it's really dangerous. I mean, for health reasons, for environmental reasons, it causes so much pollution, and it's unnecessary. I mean, I think it's like 4 million gallons a day of gas that is wasted by idling cars, and it's just ridiculous.
So we brought you some additional facts to review. 4 million gallons, as you just said, of fossil fuel are wasted in the US every day as a result of vehicle idling. Now, if you consider that every gallon of gas burned produces more than 20 pounds of greenhouse gases, that adds up to 80 million pounds of greenhouse gases per day. And there's some other interesting facts. 2 minutes spent idling equals 1 mile of driving. Consider that. And 10 seconds of idling wastes more fuel than restarting the engine.
Yeah, so it's better to just restart your car. I mean, people say that to me, I don't want to turn off my car because it's going to take more gas to start the car up, and it's not true. It just isn't true. People think about cars the way they were built before, but cars are different now. And if you add up all that gas, it's $13 million a day that people are wasting. So you can think about it in terms of your pocketbook of how much you're wasting. You can think about it about the environment, what you're doing to the environment in terms of the toxic pollution, or to affect climate change, or the health. What was that fact about kids?
Right.
Well, if you want to go ahead, but I want to interject one thing. I just found out today that I have a friend, and he was telling me he has a new car. And he said, my new car, he said, when I come to a stop signal, he said, the engine automatically turns off. I said, you're kidding. He goes, no. He said, I will have to say not all new cars have this. His car is a little high end.
Yeah.
And he also said he has a friend who has a Mercedes, and his car does that also. And then he said when he takes his foot off the brake and he puts it onto the accelerator, then it starts up again.
Wow.
So thank goodness our cars are starting to get the picture too.
Well, great, yeah.
Well, this is wonderful, of course, but technology is not the solution. I think what this initiative is about is consciousness raising awareness that this is important. So the law has been around for many years. Our legislators in Massachusetts actually saw the light a while ago, and so here is what the statute says. This is Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 990, Section 16A. No person shall cause, suffer, allow, or permit the unnecessary operation of the engine of a motor vehicle while said vehicle is stopped for a foreseeable period of time in excess of 5 minutes. And then comes the list of exceptions that you already mentioned, and it has penalties attached to it. Imagine that. Penalties can range from $100 to as much as $25,000. Just imagine that.
But
I think that because the penalties are so steep, the law has gone unenforced in Massachusetts for a long time, because which police officer wants to stop a citizen and say, well, go up to a citizen and say, you're idling, here's a $100 ticket, right? So what we are not interested in is penalizing people, but educating people about this practice, which is so noxious and unnecessary.
Yeah, I've talked to so many people, they've never heard of the law. But what we've done, we've created this coalition. This is not just the UU Church that cares about this. There's so many organizations here in Medfield that actually care about it. The police are behind this, the Board of Selectmen are behind it, the Board of Health is behind it, the Medfield Green, the Garden Club, and then
all the schools.
All the schools,
the schools
school
are
committee.
on board.
And then the 5 churches, all 5 churches in Medfield are behind
Right.
this. So this is a real coalition that we have brought together.
Which I am so pleased about. And of course, Thea, I think you and you went Medfield Day and talked to the churches. We have all the churches in town behind us, and I think that is wonderful rather than just 1 or 2. So everyone is represented. I also, being a retired teacher, went to the 5 different schools, but initially Fritz and I went to the school committee. Oh no, you went with me to the school committee. We went to the selectmen, and all these people were very positive, really helpful. And Dr. Marsden, our superintendent, has been very helpful. We also, by going to the different schools, we have 2 signs put up of saying no idling at each school. I talked to our police chief, Bob Meany, and he said, oh yes, that's wonderful to do that. And he told about the different towns that also have it, including Wellesley close by.
And Wakefield and Hull.
Sudbury.
Yeah,
Dedham.
all these.
There's even an initiative in Boston
Oh, good.
that's
Well,
focusing on it.
then
So who put up the signs?
the police did.
The police did.
And
Oh.
Chief Meany was very in favor of it, and he wanted to make sure that he put up the correct, for the law, signs, and we have 2 in each school. But when Chief had them put up, he had our school paid for those signs. So right away, I was very pleased that the chief, our police chief Meany and our superintendent get along very well, and they just worked beautifully and got them up. So I was delighted. I also gave our packet of information to each of the principals at our 5 different schools. And again, what you were saying, Fritz, and also you too, Thea, that we really, it isn't to say, oh, you can't do this, it's wrong, blah, blah, blah. We want to educate people. And I feel very strongly that our schools will be our way to go. And if we can get our children, no matter what level, the very low level, all the way up to the high school, to inform their parents, Mom, when you come to pick us up, you should turn your car off because you're wasting gasoline. Besides, Chief Meany, he was very much, he said, the health of our children. He said, all those cars idling, he said, sometimes they have outlets in some of the schools for the air exchange, and all those fumes go right in those outlets.
Wow.
So he was everybody's been very positive. So it's really kind of exciting to work in a committee that you have everybody behind us. So.
And of course, there's so many good reasons for why this law exists. Originally, it started out to protect the health of people in the Commonwealth, right? And then in the meantime, what has happened, we have gone through peak oil, so people were concerned about wasting fossil fuels.
Yeah.
And now we are learning about the urgency of climate change and what's happening to our climate, to our living environment. And so the reasons for this law multiply. And what I like particularly about this initiative is that it brings the community together around an issue that clearly is a win-win for everyone. There is not one good reason why one should not pursue this initiative. And I think there are many laws in the books that make you wonder why they exist. This is one good law that the Massachusetts legislature created, and it's a shame that it is so under-recognized and really not enforced.
Yeah, I've talked to people. I mean, this actually happened to me because, once I joined this committee, I started wondering, what will I do if I see somebody idling? Am I going to call the police? Well, the police don't want to arrest anybody or give tickets. They just want people to know about it. So I walked up to this woman and I said, do you know there's an anti-idling law in Massachusetts? And she said, I've lived here all my life and I've never heard of such a thing. And I didn't know what to say at that point. I don't know, maybe you can give
I
me
must
some
tell you what I've done.
guideline.
Well, I live in a cul-de-sac very close to the schools, and all the mothers come by to pick up their children, and they park in my cul-de-sac. And so I went out. Lucky enough, we have this wonderful flyer, and because I didn't want to go out plain. It's easier to have something in your hand. And I knocked on the window and I said, "Excuse me." And she kind of looked at me and I said, "You know, we have an anti-idling law here in Medfield, and also it's in Massachusetts." And I said, "Do you know about this law?" And well, I didn't know about it until I joined our committee. And like the rest of us, she said, "No, I don't know anything about this." So I handed her our flyer, and she started reading it, and she said, "Oh, that's good to know." Boom, she turned off her engine, and I was delighted. Then I went around. I had about 6 cars, so I went to another car, did the same thing, handed her, because I like to have something in my hand that is worthwhile, that they can read about. And she was so enthusiastic. She said, "You know, this is at the middle school where the parents come." She said, "At the elementary school, so many of the people do this." So she said, she said, "Would you like to have help?" So she's going to help us so we can go to the different have the kids or the parents inform them like I was doing. And so it's very positive approach. So I was delighted.
That's exactly the point. So I just went to a climate conference last weekend in Nashua, New Hampshire. And one of the points that was driven home repeatedly is that when you talk about climate change, it absolutely will not do just to spread the bad news. You must give people an opportunity to act, to do something about it. And turning off your engine is a very simple thing to do. There is, in fact, an academic initiative, the Yale Project on Climate Change Communication, that wrestles with this problem. How much do you want to emphasize the bad effects of people's practices? Right? If all you do is say, "This is bad, you bad person," if you go treat people, they turn away. And so emphasizing the law, this is on the books, therefore thou shalt not, is not terribly effective. But pointing out that it's in everybody's self-interest to save money, to protect your own health, to protect the planet.
And the children.
And of course, everyone's includes the children, right? Everybody's health.
But even more so, because the children are down there closer to the exhaust
That's
fumes.
right.
And it's one of the triggers for asthma. It's one of
And
the
their
top-
respiratory,
Right.
yes.
And
So
their respiratory systems are different.
I'm very concerned when I see children playing soccer here in Medfield, and I see a whole row of cars sitting there idling while a parent sits behind the wheel, texting away, and there are all these kids playing soccer, breathing in the concentrated fumes. So that cannot be good.
So where can people get the flyer? Because I like that idea. I mean, I do
I'd
have
like to have
access to
some-
the flyers, and I'm going to carry them around with me now.
It's so much better to have the flyers. But I want to, maybe Fritz, you could clarify this for me, because I'm still kind of a neophyte in this, and you two are a lot better informed than I am. When we have, someone said to me, "Oh, but when it's cold, I have to keep my engine going." Now, how do we approach that when someone says it to us?
Well, the law stipulates that you can do that for 5 minutes at a time, right? So if you have to wait more than 5 minutes, you are legally allowed to turn on the engine and not freeze to death. That's clear, right? But it makes no sense to sit there and keep the engine running for 20 minutes, or what is worse, what I see in the summer a lot, is that people are sitting there, air conditioning running, the air conditioning is running, the windows open, and they're completely unaware. So many times it's simply a matter of making people aware of what they're doing. And people are not per se irrational or obstinate. If you point it out to them, very often they will say, "Oh yeah, I hadn't thought about that," and we'll do something about it. So I think emphasizing the positive,
Yes.
and pointing out that it's in people's self-interest will take us further than
And the
anything
people
else.
they're very, they're appreciative that to be informed, and that's what our main goal is, to educate, and hopefully through our students, our children, and just by all of us, in fact, to get more help for people. I think the town, transfer station, the fields, all these places are really, we need help for people to do that too.
So speaking of places, the next step in our initiative will be to talk to all the businesses in town and ask them to put up a little sticker at their door. Thank you for not idling. We will thank people for not doing that, because it also makes no sense to go into a business like a bank or the CVS or the liquor store and leave your car idling just because it's cold outside or hot outside and you want to get back into the car and be comfortable. I think that's a small sacrifice that we can ask people to make. And of course, you know, the businesses have an interest in this, because what is to be gained if every time you open the door, you know, a flow of pollution enters your premises? That is not the point. So I'm pretty sure that we'll get pretty much everyone in town to support this initiative
And
as well.
if people want more flyers, I mean, all of the sponsoring organizations have the flyer. I know Medfield Green has the flyers. They've been passing them out, and they have them at the schools, and the police have it, and the Board of Health has it. And
the town, at the town
and
building.
the town
you
has
can
it,
pick them up,
and we can get more of them made and spread out. If anybody wants them, they can definitely get them. And I think, you know, with businesses, once businesses get these stickers, maybe we can leave some flyers at the businesses
Which would be
also.
great. You know, coming from my level, you people, of course, are a lot younger than I am, but a lot of people in my age level, well, no, we've always done it this way. It's hard for them to want to change, but I think if we, you know, kindly try and get across to them that our cars are different and things are different, and we do, and again, our climate change, like you're saying, to be, again, the positive way, but things have changed in some ways not so good.
And they have grandchildren and great-grandchildren.
That's another excellent point.
But the town has already changed. Look, we have a fairly enlightened town government in Medfield, which I'm grateful for. We have an energy committee. We have all sorts of initiatives around town in response to what's happening in the environment. So I think this initiative of ours is not starting anything from scratch. It is contributing to a conversation that already exists, and it continues a dialogue, a process of education that the town has already begun. So I think there are good chances that this will reinforce the good things that are already happening.
Right. Well, I think we've covered a lot of material, and hopefully our audience have learned something and also will be more aware about not idling their cars and where they can get more information and go from there. And again, as I was telling Dr. Marston, I said of this superintendent, I said, you know, it's kind of like being against motherhood. I mean, really, it's a very positive thing to work on, which is a lot easier than some negative things. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think we've had a good talk, and again, I repeat, I hope you've learned from that, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Eve.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Medfield TV.